Good evening, John Augustine here. Hope I find you well after a nice day here in back home in my house in Oldcastle. Nice and quiet. I was in Rosslare for a week there for my sister's birthday, which was on the 11th of October, Wednesday. And so we had a couple of meals at different times, and I treated them into a meal on the Friday. Uh, the She was her birthday was 11 for the 13th. Looking for some, and I was mentioning looking for someone, but then she mentioned that at the Last Supper there was the 12 apostles and Jesus, that was 13. So it was something I never thought of, to be honest with you, because Judas was the betrayer, but then he was there, wasn't he? So there was 12 and then Jesus 13. Now, but I was in Wexford, and Wexford is a very historical city. Many things happened. Commodore John Barry, I think, was the founder of either the American Navy or the some navy in South America, and well known. So they produced a lot of well known figures, and there was they suffered a lot during the 1798 rebellion. The usual murder, by the British. That's all they seemed to be able to do. And there was when Cromwell come, there was a lot of people murdered by Cromwell in Wexford. A lot of innocent men, women, and children murdered in the market square, and they were innocent, weren't carrying arms or anything. But these people were kind of savage. They were like savages, really. That's what they were. Savages with arms. Pity we didn't have enough arms ourselves to give them a bit of a hiding. So I just talk about one of the churches, the Church of the Assumption, Bright Street, Wexford, which I was in, and there's a little leaflet about it. I just read a little bit about it because it's a nice history. The Church of the Assumption at Bright Street in Wexford is just across the road from the Franciscan church and friary, and the lowly mass there and the confessions there. I got confession there on the Tuesday. It's not on a Monday, but it's a lovely church, and there's a relic of a little saint there, Saint Jupiter or something, murdered by his father in the 2nd century. He was becoming a Catholic, and the father was a pagan, and they were just parents were quite evil them times. They didn't seem to have respect for children, and he killed his son with a blow, and there's a mark on his head. But there's a relic there in the Franciscan church, and it's quite moving. So that's the Franciscan. But anyways, the Church of the Assumption at Bright Street, Wexford, opened its doors on April the 18th, 1858. 1 week ahead of the twin, the Church of the Immaculate Conception. So it was named after the Blessed Virgin at Bow Street. Both churches were designed by Richard Pierce from 10 Acre, County Wexford. It was Pierce Brothers that had a foundry there, used to make agricultural equipment. Now it's apartments, and it's a big stone building. I remember it when it was actually producing those items. There, 10 Acre County, by Richard Pierce from 10 Acre, County Wexford, who had learned his architectural skills from the 19th century Gothic architect Augustus Welby Pugin. He was a great designer of churches, and I believe he designed Parliament in London or whatever it was there. So he was very talented, and he designed two churches in Pugin, two churches in Wexford, in Barntown church there, lovely church, lovely Gothic windows, lovely style, and he did another one in Tegoat, another Catholic church, which is undergone repairs because it was gone into a bit of this mass there on a Sunday at I think 11:30, and the priest, Father Murphy from Rosslare Strand, is the priest for there too. Although there's a priest house, and I believe they're hoping to have a priest there now in due course. Let's hope that there is, because it's a beautiful church, and it could be done up, and people would like to go, would be, go to mass there. So dimensions are identical in both churches. 550.6 meters in length and 18.3 meters in width. The height of the spire from basement to top is 67.7 meters. Both churches are constructed using sandstone from County Wexford and granite from County Wicklow. The proximity of the two churches comes as a surprise today. It is worth remembering that they were constructed at a time of new freedom of religious expression, following Catholic emancipation in 1829 by the famous liberator Daniel O'Connell from Kerry. And I think he got in England as well, but he doesn't get credit for that because he was elected to their House of Commons over there, and he didn't put trouble in that miserable place. Catholic emancipation, so then we got it. It took a long time with the penal times before we got the sort of civilised behaviour that any civilised country that calls itself the mother of parliaments, it must be joking, that only represented the high class. Most people didn't have a vote, and the ladies didn't have a vote until the 19th century or the 20th century, and they had to fight for it. At a public meeting held in 1850 at the Franciscan Friary Chapel, which had for years been serving as a parish church, it was decided by the townspeople that the increasing church-going population would require two churches, one for the north end of the town and one for the south end. The proximity of the two would suggest that these were the two sites found to be most appropriate. The achievement in building these two great churches at a time soon after the Great Famine was remarkable. So it was. And we got the Catholic emancipation and then the famine. And of course, they neglected the people there, the crowd in Britain, the usual old suspects. We had 1 million of our brothers and sisters dying of starvation, and then they were evicted from their homes as well and died on the side of the road to make room for sheep. They did an awful lot of bad things to the British. So the achievement, the inspiration and motivation came from Canon James Roach, the extraordinary last parish priest of Wexford. It is now a mensal parish, the bishop's parish. A fine statue of Father Roach is now on the main church porch. I think I saw it. The money came not only from parishioners, but from Irish exiles all over the world. But I think the ones in America come to the rescue of many a family. If it wasn't for them, they would have starved. A lot of them went there during the famine. In particular, modest contribution came in a steady stream from the Wexford sailors aboard the 100 sailing ships frequently moored 3 deep along Wexford quays, bringing the people to the New World. The church porch contains lists of generous donors and benefactors. At the fine main door, in an unusual pattern of cobblestones, a feature sometimes called Wexford mosaic. The elaborate railings were made by the nearby Pierce's foundry. Ah, yes, God, it was going that long. Of note within the church are the handsome carved pews and the 19th century encaustic tiles, the elaborate altars and rare reredos, somewhat similar to those of the twin churches, were replaced following the Second Vatican Council at a time when much change was occurring in church architecture. I'll read the rest tomorrow. Um, that's the picture of it, and it's a beautiful church, lovely stained glass windows, and a lot of lovely statues as you go up around the church, and lovely stations at the cross. Very evocative, the traditional style, nothing modern about it. They're lovely. And there's a very kind of holy place, lovely stained glass windows. So I must say it was done great. And obviously, the people helping all over the world. So if it wasn't a thing from people all over the world, I don't think these churches could have been built because people didn't have any money. The Catholics couldn't have jobs. They couldn't be educated. It was the Christian brothers and the nuns, the presentation nuns and the Sisters of Mercy and the Christian brothers and the presentation brothers, found by that blessed the founder of the Presentation Brothers from, I think, Waterford, from a good family, a well-to-do family. So he supported, and the same with the Presentation Sisters. She was from a well-to-do family as well, the founder for that. So it wasn't for them we wouldn't have had education, and they proposed, because before that it was hedge schools. We couldn't be educated, and you couldn't have windows in your house, and then they started abusing the Irish because making them out that they were sort of whatever it was, but they were so anti-Catholic, the British, that they treated people with the Catholic faith in a very cruel and insidious manner. But thanks be to God, our churches were built, and the people having the freedom to practice their Catholic faith, churches were packed, and confessions were packed, even in my time, for years. But they mentioned the Second Vatican Council. I think they did a lot of harm. They were interpreted. It wasn't meant. The Latin Rite Mass wasn't meant to be stopped, but for some reason or another, they went astray. And the one terrible thing that the bishops have been guilty of in this country, and are supposed to be shepherds, was taking out the altar rails and the sacrament of confession and the grateful devotions, and no shortage of priests. Suddenly, in nowadays, if it wasn't for Indians and African priests that's here, there'd be many a church wouldn't have a holy mass. So the bishops made too many changes. That's not good. And the rosary and benediction was done away with, and the men's and women's adulteries that strengthened families, and churches were packed confessions. And the priest facing the tabernacle, and now he says it's back at the tabernacle. You can't do things like that in my book. You don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. You've got to sort of make changes very slowly. But they went from one extreme to another, and they don't seem to apologise for it, as far as I see, and change their tune, because that's what they're there for. And by what they've done, they've a lot to answer for, because there's a lot of people now not practicing their Catholic faith, and their souls are in grave danger, eternal damnation, because that's an obligation for a baptized Catholic, which is a great gift. And it would be good that it wasn't, it's older people that's gone. You don't see too many young people, but I hear young people are going to where the Latin Rite Mass is in their droves in the United States, where it's celebrated. And of course, it's under attack now by the Vatican. And that doesn't seem right, because people want the traditional devotion that they were used to. and they still have it in many places in the United States, and they have it here too in various places. Harrington Street is one in Dublin, but it should be, in my opinion, at least available once a week in every parish in the country for those that like it. And young people, I think, want to see something that's meaningful and that has a message and a sacrament of confession. It should be promoted and practiced much more widely than it is. So these are little observations, and when I was in the church there in that area, unfortunately, I noticed that I think the altar rails is in that church that I've just read about. But whether people receive Holy Communion kneeling at the altar rails, they do in some churches that I've been in, but unfortunately not enough. And the absence of the altar rails makes the church not as holy and as reverent as one would like. I think, because it's, and I don't hear a choir. But I do when I'm in the Latin, when I go to the Latin Rite Mass. I hear a lovely choir, but I don't hear a choir now in an awful lot of churches. And and I don't see altar boys or girls that we used to see, and I don't know why that is. I think it's not right because the priest is doing all himself. So there's a lack of cohesion, and you see it in some churches, but in others there isn't, which is a shame, isn't it? I'll do another one after this, and Bob's your uncle. That'll be it. But I thought I'd share that little bit about Wexford and share a bit more about it as time goes on. So I'll do another little one after this. Bye now.